Hey, it's Eric and it's Jay, and we are back from the Yokohama Tire Real Hoopties of New Jersey at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Now, one of the great things about this race, for whatever reason, we're not really sure, but we're totally into it. The atmosphere was just fantastic at this race.
I'm going to start with but terrible. Some miscreant broke into Kim Harmon's car about a week before the race, stole everything. Decoders for the timing system. Among the things that they stole, a giant pile of Yokohama and eBay stickers. And, well, we got some of the stuff back because the police found some of the stuff, including that. If you got stickers at this race, came right out of the evidence bag.
Also relevant to Kim, at this race, the Floodstang guys, one of them had a camera crew along, and the camera operator's partner was a circus arts performer. She was roller skating around the paddock. She gave Kim some hella sweet roller skating lessons.
Hella sweet, we had a bunch of guys on Yokohamas this time. Once again, the Road Mangler Cup is really simple. Show up, race your car in Yokohamas, get entered in the drawing to win a free set.
As long as we're talking about shilling, we may as well mention eBay Motors. The Cordoba. They got their trophies for their theme from eBay. That was hella sweet.
Where'd you get the trophies?
eBay!
And speaking of eBay, Chris Fix, the famous Chris Fix, came and ran this race. Well, or tried to run this race. I don't want a spoiler alert. I'm sure he's going to do his own film. I can't spoiler alert too much, but let me just say, Chris did not dominate.
But terrible, this race was all of the carnage. There was hella lot of blowing up. Whatever was happening, it was but terrible.
You know what's but terrible? Subarus. I mean, if you're not Colin McRae or a dog walker, do not drive a Subaru, because they had 4 of them, all the same vintage at this race. 3 of them had an identical hub failure. We've never seen that before. Maybe we'll never see it again. Weirdest thing, no Subarus.
Hella sweet at this race, for once, were our class winners, which were a Honda Fit, a Dodge Daytona, and a Dodge Aspen. What else do I need to say about that? Now, at this race, we came up with a couple of arts and crafts style penalties. Chris Haas came up with one where he found one of these color by number kind of deals, made the guys calm down, find some zen. And then along those same lines, I had a set of pastels that I made teams recreate their scene of their black flagging. And someday, I think we're going to find those in the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Hella sweet, the Chevy Malibu of 8 Hicks. Now, this was 1 week after we got our first of this generation Malibu. When we started this in 2006 and that car was like 5 years old, it would not have been out of place in a race for $500 cars. Now it's taken us 15 years and they're coming out of the woodwork.
The Jeep Cherokee. Now, not something you typically think of as being a great road racing car, but these dudes showed up with a, as far as we could tell, completely stock Jeep Cherokee, and it ripped past people in BMWs and ripped past people in Civics, and they were like, man, what is going on with that thing? Turns out a stock Jeep Cherokee? Kind of quick if you're an instructor at New Jersey Motorsports Park and have done thousands of laps at the track.
Hella sweet, the El Chupacabra Ford Fiesta. These cars, they came with this Kent motor. It's basically a tractor engine that all English people think should have been a Formula One engine. It was not. They massaged the hell out of that thing. They put on motorcycle carburetors. For $300, they bought an entire warehouse of all of the remaining Ford Fiesta spares from some dude in Florida, like all of them in the country they now own for $300. They needed all of them, but they kept this thing going, and for brief periods, it was not terrible.
On the subject of carburetor swaps, there was the Staten Island crash dummies in their Lexus SC300. Now, of course, these are fantastic cars and come with one of the best engines made in the last half century, which is the
2JZ engine, no shit.
For reasons they couldn't explain and for reasons we really don't understand, they decided that their 2JZ needed a single barrel carburetor on it. We don't know what the whole approach to it was. These engines are famous for being able to handle ridiculous amounts of fuel and horsepower, so they decided to give it none of either of those things, and unsurprisingly, it blew up.
Hella sweet Turtle Eclipse of the Heart. Mostly hella sweet because best team name in Lemons, without question. But even hella sweeter because this time they wrote a song, Turtle Eclipse of the Heart, to the sound of the old song, played it, it was awesome.
Turtle car, every now and then I get a little bit worried that you're never running right. Turtle car, Every now and then I get a little bit tired rebuilding your engine and tram.
This new team showed up with a Miata, and they were petitioning for C-Class with a seagoing theme with costumes. It was pretty great. They didn't get Class C, but we did love the theme, so very well done. Apex obsessed.
But terrible, three-pedal Mafia, they brought what looked like a killer car. It's a 300ZX, it's got a truck motor V8 in it. I mean, it looked like it was gonna really be fast. It was so fast that on about the second lap of Friday practice, they crashed and totaled it. I don't think this car's ever gonna get straight again. Driver was fine, thank goodness. They found a neon on site that they could rent to replace that car. They put numbers on it. Turns out if you're like three-pedal Mafia numbers, not that hard. And then they blew that up too.
Lemontarians, the famous, such as it is, Lemons team from Connecticut, showed up with their gigantic Cadillac, and much like Three Pedal Mafia, they had brought a V8 truck motor they'd thrown in it with a tunnel ram. They had basically cheated every single way you possibly could. Turns out, you bring a Cadillac, we don't really care that much, and it blew up anyway, kind of wrecked all the cylinder walls, it's toast. The best part of it, however, was, as usual, their pit vehicle game was incredible. They had an actual tug from LaGuardia Airport. Disused, they'd reconditioned it, add a whole bunch of stuff, drove it around the paddock, and even pushed some broken cars into their trailers with it. That was hella sweet.
You know what else was hella sweet is that really super cheaty V8 motor they put in the Cadillac. That thing was fast. Not quite as fast, but still pretty sweet. The Frankenvet showed up again. As they do, they blew up a motor and swap that out. And as they do, they blow up a transmission and swap that out. And one of these days, these guys are going to get their whole thing together, and they are going to absolutely crush the hopeless souls in Class C and their Pintos and Gremlins. They're going to dominate. But it hasn't happened yet.
And of course, there was Valve Tap Racing and their Chrysler Cordoba. This thing's always great, but really we threw it in here because we just wanted to keep saying Cordoba. And every Lemons race probably needs to have a Cordoba.
And really, one more time, Cordoba. All right, let's move on to the trophies, starting with the Heroic Fix. This went to Ham Motorsports and their Mazda Miata. This was one of a number of relatively stock engine Miatas that all shot rods out the side of the block. These guys, though, they were on it so fast, the captain, he did not even really have time to change into his banana hammock, which, for reasons we don't understand, he thinks is an essential part of swapping a motor in a Miata. By the time he had strapped them around his plums, I'm mixing my fruit, but you get the idea. They were halfway through this engine swap. They got all back together. They were laughing their asses off all the way through. They got the car back out. They did a great job.
I Got Screwed at this race went to perennial I Got Screwed contenders, the British Empire Strikes Back. Now, they already race a Triumph TR8 that blows up pretty much every single race. And as if that wasn't enough punishment, they decided to add a Sunbeam Alpine to their stable of race cars. And actually, race cars is pretty generous for the description of it because it showed up with an engine, and that was pretty much it. Just an engine. They spent the entire weekend thrashing on it. They got it about halfway through the to-do list. Decided, nah, we'll probably just pack it in, and we may see you in Connecticut.
The regional award was the Oh No, They Won't Admit It's a Camry, which went to a team that brought a Toyota Camry dressed up as a Daewoo Tosca. It was a very high concept, so high concept that the only guy really in the world who's going to truly appreciate and get it was Phil. Phil wasn't at this race, largely went over our heads, but they were so diehard sticking to this. Every time you said Camry, they would get this blank look. Now that I'm thinking about it, that might just be Lemons Racer, but I think they were getting a blank look related to the fact that they didn't know it was a Camry. They thought it was Daewoo Tosca.
As sees appropriate, this car is slow as please judge be merciful, this car is pitiful.
In addition to the regional award, we had another specific to this race trophy, which was the Lifetime Achievement of Hopelessness Award. Now, the story on this is that back in 2012, somebody bribed us with this terrible bust of a naked woman, and we gave it to the team that was the most hopeless, which happened to be Tom Lamino and the team far from winning, Volkswagen Fox. Very well earned, I might add. Now, Tom kept this trophy at his house, put it on his mantle, admiring his hopelessness that lasted for the better part of a decade, until his wife finally, after decades of patience, insisted that it go away immediately and never come back. Now, Tom blew his car up and was probably en route to be receiving this back. He booked it, got out of there before we could award him the trophy, and his car, of course, caught fire in the garage when he got it home. Now, since he wasn't there, we had to give it to somebody. The Science Project is a group of racers we've seen for years. They are completely hopeless. The team captain is from Le Mans, France, and is, for whatever reason, super into making moonshine and building really crappy race cars. We love them. They're never going to dominate, and they're totally okay with that, and we're okay with them being okay with that, even if they forgot their gas cap on pit lane and drove off with it.
Judge's choice was car 740, the Volvo 740 of Bad Idea Racing, not IKEA, Idea. They showed up for tech, and BS, they had this IKEA furniture strapped to their roof. They said, well, don't worry, we're going to take that off for the race. Oh, no, you're not. You cannot take that off. You have to go figure out how to make that stay on there, be really safe. You're going to race that way with the chair and the lamp on the side table all weekend long. They said, great, they did it. We loved it.
Should add to that the chair in question is the one mostly used by iRacers. For some reason, there's an IKEA chair they love. And also, these guys have designs on turning the lamp bulb into a brake light, which is super hella sweet. Organizer's choice this race went to Neighborinos. This is a geoprism themed after Homer Simpson's neighbor Ned Flanders. If, like me, you've seen every rerun of The Simpsons from the 90s, you knew exactly what the theme was.
He's cheating on us! I'm scared! Come on, Ned, move this thing! I can't! It's a geo!
It was really well done, and it turns out that an automatic geoprism, perfect beginner's car for lemons. They didn't get themselves in trouble. They didn't really go fast enough to hurt the car or themselves. Very well done, Neighborinos.
Yeah, pro tip if you want to really sell a theme, grow real facial hair to go with the theme. I mean, that puts it right over the top. All right, and the IOE, the top trophy of the race, that went to Tom Tully's Buick. Who's Tom Tully? What's a Buick? All right, well, Tom Tully is Amanda Tully's dad. Now, Amanda Tully, very successful racer, great captain, fantastic mechanic, wonderful engineer. Amanda's really one of the best going. Her dad, Tom, well, now we know where she gets it. He's the second owner of this 37 Buick. And after all these years, he's been saving it for 50 years and just so it could turn into a Lemons race car. Well, all right. It's a Buick because the motor, it came with this giant straight 8. Well, he didn't want that. He wanted something sophisticated and lightweight. So instead, he got like a 35, 40-year-old Cadillac 500 V8. And it has kind of worked. I mean, it didn't run every lap, don't get me wrong. And one of the drivers, when he was driving it, said, it is like driving a wet couch that is vibrating and twisting at a bunch of different frequencies and that really is trying to fly onto the track on the other side of the facility. But we're doing it, he said. It is mostly pre-war American car. It's not a hack car. It's not a tube frame car. It's the real deal. It was awesome. This is what we want to see.
And that takes us to Lemons in a nutshell.
When's the punishment start?
Bagel buddy. He just laid down and went to sleep. It's like, okay. Happy birthday, dear Geo.
Go faster.
I can't, it's a Geo!
Sector and bananas, Danbay and Bagnova. Yes, it's a Daewoo. definitely a Daewoo. Send it into T1, have some fun. We will survive. This is our Daewoo.